Hi everyone, we are starting a new chapter today, activity based costing. This chapter is an extension of overheads chapter. Why am I saying so? Because overhead chapter, the main focus is estimation of overhead using percentage method, machine hour rate method, labor hour rate method, departmental overhead rate method versus blanket overhead rate method, and then machine wise machine hour rate method. Correct? The focus was estimation of overhead. We are going to learn estimation of overhead in activity based costing chapter also, right? So what is the difference between that chapter and this chapter? In overhead chapter, what we have learnt is estimation of overhead based on either machine hour or labor hour. That means there the focus was to connect overhead to time. Focus was to connect overhead to time, either machine time or labor time, either one rate to the whole company or department wise different rate. Or ultimately we calculated everything based on time. What we are going to do in activity based costing is estimate the overheads based on the activity performed. Now sir, what is the difference between time and activity? Very simple. This you know very well. I work for 10 hours. I make 100 phone calls. I work for 10 hours and I make 100 phone calls. This is me, one employee. Another employee, my colleague, he works for 9 hours and he makes 120 phone calls. Now suppose both of us are working in customer service department. Now what is the main work that we do in customer service department? Both me and my friend, we receive phone calls. We take customer complaints, we raise the ticket and get it resolved. Our job is to receive phone calls or make phone calls to reach new customers, either to receive customer complaints or to make phone calls and reach out to new customers and advertise our products. This is our job. Two employees, that is me and my colleague. I am working for 10 hours. That means I am talking about time spent by me. My friend is working for 9 hours. Now when I compare 10 hours versus 9 hours, my focus is time. But when you say that you are making 100 phone calls, you are making 100 phone calls and then your friend is making 120 phone calls, you are not talking about time here, you are talking about the work, or I can write it as you are talking about the activity performed. Are you following? When I say I work for 10 hours versus my friend is or my colleague is working for 9 hours, our focus is time. When I say I make 100 phone calls, my colleague is making 120 phone calls, the focus now shifted to work or activity. Think of supply chain department. I am working for 10 hours, my colleague is working for 9 hours. But I pack and dispatch 20 boxes in a day, whereas my friend, my colleague, he or she, they are doing 25 boxes, they're dispatching 25 or 35. Now when I say 10 hours versus 9 hours, focus is on time. When I say 20 boxes, 25 boxes, 35 boxes packed, now the focus is activity. And what is the activity that I do? Packing the boxes and dispatching them. What we have studied already in overhead chapter is estimating overhead on the basis of time. That's what I discussed just now. 10 hours versus 9 hours when you say your focus is time. But in this chapter, we will be learning estimation of overhead on the basis of activity performed. Now it will not be 10 versus 9. It will be 100 calls versus 120 phone calls. Clear? Yes. See here. I am reading from textbook. ABC technique, which involves identification of cost with each cost driving activity and making it as the basis for apportionment of cost over different objects, jobs, products. ABC will assign the cost to activity based on the use of resources. It then assigns cost to cost objects such as product or customer, etc. based on the activities. Once I start solving the problem, you will understand this theory as well. ABC can track the flow of activity in organization by creating link between activity and cost object. In previous chapter, the overhead chapter, it was not activity and cost object, it was time and cost object. It is either machine hour or labor hour, correct? Using machine hour, we calculated machine hour rate, and then we will use machine hour rate to calculate the cost per cost object, product basically. If we are following labor hour basis, then we will calculate labor hour rate and then use labor hour rate to calculate the cost per product or cost per service. But here focus is not time, here focus is, observe what I am circling in blue, the focus now is on activity. Yes, let me read the next point. The flow is characterized through four core areas: cost object, cost driver, resource cost driver, and activity cost driver. In order to understand how ABC operates, it is necessary to understand the meaning of above. Let's understand. Then first, activity. Activity here refers to an event that incurs cost. In my example, making phone calls is an activity, because whenever I make a phone call, there is telephone expenses, correct? In second example, I said number of boxes packed. Every time I pack a particular item for my customer, there is a cost involved, packing related cost. So that is activity. Cost object, it is an item for which cost measurement is required. Example, product or customer. You are preparing cost sheet to calculate the cost per product. I am talking about cost sheet chapter. You prepare cost sheet to find out cost per product. You prepare process account to calculate cost per process and then cost per unit. If it is WIP, cost per equivalent unit, correct? What for are you calculating the cost? Are you calculating the cost per unit, per contract, per customer, per job? That itself is called cost object. If I am calculating cost per mobile phone will be my cost object. If I am calculating cost per laptop, then laptop becomes my cost object. Simple. So first thing is activity, second is cost object, third cost driver. What is cost driver? It is any factor or activity that causes a change in the cost of an activity. It has a direct cause and effect relationship with the resources consumed. There are two categories of cost drivers: a resource cost driver and an activity cost driver. What is resource cost driver? It is a measure of the quantity of the resource consumed by an activity. It is used to assign the cost of a resource to an activity or cost pool. Some students get confused in this chapter because of these new terms. Please don't worry. Activity means cost pool. It is one and the same. Cost pool means activity. Clear? Then cost driver means what? Anything that drives, anything that is the reason. See here, they have used the word cause and effect. Cause and effect. Anything that drives the cost is cost driver. Give me 5 minutes. Once I start the problem, you will get to know these terms better. An activity cost driver, it is a measure of the frequency and intensity of demand placed on the activity by cost object. It is used to assign activity cost to cost object. Okay, we will learn all this once we start question 1. Okay, don't worry much. What is the basic difference between ABC and traditional costing? Traditional costing means what we studied in overhead chapter. That is, estimating overhead based on either MHR or based on LHR. Okay, versus activity based costing. Name itself tells you. In traditional costing, overheads are assigned either based on machine hour or based on labor hour. That means overhead is connected to time, either machine time or labor time. Then from there you connect it to cost object. What is cost object? I already told you. If you want to calculate cost per mobile phone, then mobile phone is cost driver. So basically total overheads are first connected to either machine hour rate or labor hour rate, and using MHR or LHR you will try to calculate the cost per mobile phone. That means you have overhead, you have machine hour rate or labor hour rate, and then you have mobile phone, correct? But here what is happening, same overhead, finally same mobile phone. In between, the linking point will not be machine hour rate or labor hour rate, it will be rate per activity. Observe what I am writing here. Under traditional approach, overhead will be linked to either machine hour rate or labor hour rate, and then that is linked to the product. In my example, it was mobile phone. But under ABC, same overhead, we need to link it to the same product. That means starting point and ending point will remain same. But you will not link it using time, you will link it using activity. That is why the chapter name is activity based costing, not time based costing. Clear to you? Remember this, I want all of you to make a note of it. I will wait for 1 minute. Please make a note of it. In traditional method, you can write it in the way I have written. In the traditional method, overhead is connected to MHR or LHR, and then it is connected to product. Product is how we can understand, but product is called as what? Cost object. Cost object. Under ABC, what will happen? Same overhead will be first connected to activity and then connected to product or service, again basically cost object. Cost object. Right? What are the stages in ABC? What are the stages in ABC? First, identify the activity. Obvious point, correct? Sir, what do you mean by identifying the activity? Customer complaint handling is an activity. Dispatching the FG is an activity. Customer query management is an activity, correct? This is identifying activity. Second, relate overhead to the activity. For that activity, that is customer complaint management activity, how much is the cost? How much is the overhead cost? You will have telephone bill, printing and stationery, electricity, internet, all of this. Calculate how much is the overhead cost for that particular activity. Third, charge supporting activity to primary activity. So the main activity is making phone call. There will be some other expenses which are indirectly connected to this. Charge that also to this. This is something that you have done even in overhead chapter, correct? Service department cost, you transfer it back to production department, yes or no? So it is not only that department, it is that department plus all the supporting department cost which will have to be ultimately charged, same thing. Then determine the cost driver. Cost driver means what? In customer complaint management department, phone call is the cost driver. Majority of the overheads are because of the number of phone calls that we make. That means phone call becomes cost driver. Determine ABC rate. What do you mean by ABC rate? You have identified that the cost is 10,000 rupees and you are making 1,000 phone calls. 1,000 phone calls. Now this is your overhead and this is your cost driver. Cost driver is anything that drives the cost, and phone calls are driving the cost. So now 10,000 by 1000, this will be 10 rupees. But what is it in total? Complete sentence, it is not just 10 rupees, it is 10 rupees per phone call. 10 rupee per phone call, correct? This is called ABC rate, activity based costing rate, correct? What we did in traditional method was this: 10,000 rupee, 2000 labor hours. Therefore 10,000 by 2000 labor hours, we said 5 as LHR. And what is the meaning of 5 LHR? For 1 labor hour there is 5 rupee of overhead. Or to put it even simple way, if 1 labor works for 1 hour, then overhead cost will be 5 rupee. That is the meaning of LHR. If 1 labor works for 1 hour, then overhead cost will be 5 rupee. Now in ABC, what am I doing? Same 10,000. I am not going by labor time. I am going by the number of phone calls, which is 1000 phone calls. Now this will be 10, and this is my ABC rate. That's all. And what is the meaning of 10 rupee here? If we make 1 phone call, it will cost us 10 rupees. Sir, is it only telephone charges? No. Every overhead related to that department. Here also, this 10,000 rupee, when you took, you have taken all the overheads, printing, stationery, internet, telephone, all of that you have divided by labor time. Here I am saying same thing as the numerator, but denominator won't be time, it will be activity cost driver. Clear? Yes. Assign the cost to cost object. Let's see some examples. See this. Activity cost pool means what in simple? Department. Activity cost pool means a place where money is incurred. Yeah. And related cost drivers. I told you cost driver is anything that drives the cost. Ordering department, number of purchase orders. Setting up machine, number of setups. Machining cost, machine hours. Assembly department cost, number of parts assembled. Inspection cost, number of tests conducted or number of inspections. Now we observe, if I am spending 10,000 rupee in this department and I am doing 5,000 tests or 5,000 inspections, then 10,000 divided by 5,000 will be 2. And what is 2 here? 2 rupee per test or 2 rupee per inspection. What is the reason for this 10,000 rupee? Obviously 5,000 tests. That is the reason for 10,000 rupee. That is why I am calling this as cost driver. More inspections I do, more will be the cost. This is the driving factor. Yes. Painting cost, number of parts painted. Supervising cost, labor hours. Okay, right. Let us now discuss practical problems. Question number 1. The budgeted overheads and cost driver volumes of Neptune Limited are as follows. Sir, what is cost driver volume? This is the new thing you will get to know. Cost pools. You already know what is the meaning of cost pool. Cost pool means department, correct? Budgeted overhead. Okay, amount is also given to me. Yes, cost driver. In procurement department, number of orders that will drive the cost. That is why I am using the word cost driver. Material handling, number of movements, setup, number of setups, maintenance hours, and so on. Okay, so you also got cost drivers. How many orders? 550 orders. Number of orders, they said. How many orders for the whole year? 550 orders. How many movements? 340 movements, and so on. This 550 is called cost driver volume. That's all. When I say phone call is the cost driver. And then when I say 1000 phone calls, that 1000 is cost driver volume. Simple? Yes. Next. The firm has produced a batch of 2600 components of the product AXL5. Material cost is given to you, labor cost is given to you. Sir, what about overhead? That you need to estimate, correct? Next. The usage activity of the said batch are as follows. For this batch AXL5, 26 orders, 18 movements, 25 setups, 690 maintenance hours, 28 inspection and 1800 machine hours. This is what we have used for this batch. Okay. Calculate cost driver rate. What is cost driver rate? Numerator will be cost, denominator will be cost driver volume. Correct. They're saying that are used for tracing appropriate amount of overhead to the said batch and also ascertain the cost of the batch by using activity based costing. I'm sorry, one second. Just give me a minute. Where is this? One minute, guys. Okay, here it is. So this is the end of the question. Correct. Next page is next question. All right. So what is the first thing that we need to find out? Cost driver rates. What do you mean by cost driver rate? For each department, you have to calculate how much is the cost per cost driver. Okay. Yes. Let us begin. All of you start with working note 1. Question number 1. Working note 1. Computation of cost driver rates. Computation of cost driver rates. You will have to do one by one. Which is the first cost? Sir, material procurement. Correct. I'm circling in blue. Please focus on the question sheet. Material procurement. And how much is the overhead? 2,90,000. And who is driving this cost? Sir, number of orders. Okay. How many orders? 550. That means if you do 2,90,000 by 550, you will get to know how much is the material procurement cost per order. I want you to focus. Do not write now. Listen to me. Please understand the concept first. Material procurement is the cost pool and we are spending this much of money. And what is the reason for spending this? It's all because of the orders. Okay, how many orders you have placed? 550 orders. That means if I do 2,90,000 by 550, I will get to know how much I am spending per order. How much I am spending per order? Do it. 2,90,000 by 550. I am getting 527.27 rupee. Correct. Now what is 527.27? This is the overhead cost in material procurement activity per order. Are you following? 527.27 rupee is the overhead cost per order. Like this, 1,25,000 by 340. Do it. 125,000 by 340. I am getting 367.64. What is this now? 367 rupee is the cost per movement. Like this, you will have cost per setup, cost per maintenance hour, inspection and so on. That is called cost driver rate or ABC rate. Very simple. Let us start. First one, I am keeping the question book here. So I will be looking here and working out. You parallelly start writing. Material procurement. Material procurement. What is the cost? Amount 290,000 to be divided by 550 orders. 550 orders. So 2,90,000 by 550. That is coming to 527 per order. You can round off. That's okay. 527 per order. Which is the second one? Material handling. Material handling. I want you also to write along with me. 1,25,000 rupees divided by 340 movements. 340 movements. 125,000 by 340 is coming to 367 per moment. 367 per moment. Okay, understand, like this I will have 6 rates. 6 rates because there are 6 cost pools. Yes. Next one is setup cost. What's the number? 207,500 to be divided by, what is the cost driver? 260 setups. 260 setups. 207,500 by 260. I am getting 798 rupees. 798 per setup. Okay, continue. Fourth one, maintenance cost. What's the number? 485,000 to be divided by, what is the cost driver volume here? 4,200 maintenance hours. Correct, 4,200 maintenance hours. So that is coming to 115 per maintenance hour. 115 per maintenance hour. Okay, what next? Fifth one, quality control. Quality control cost is 88,000, correct, to be divided by how many inspections? 450 inspections. 88,000 by 450, 196 per inspection. Correct. You may have some rounding of difference. Some students may take it as 195.5 or 195.6. So even in the final answer, you will have some difference because of rounding off. So don't worry about rounding off difference. Yeah. Chalo, next one, I think the last department, machinery. Yes. Machinery department, 3,60,000 rupees to be divided by 12,000 machine hours. So 3,60,000 by 12,000 machine hours, that is coming to 30 per machine hour. Write completely, don't write just 30, write it as 30 per machine hour. Okay, yes. Did we complete the whole answer? No, we have not completed. Let me go back to the question. What did they ask? See this, I'm marking in blue now. Calculate cost driver rates. Did we calculate cost driver rates? Yes sir, we calculated cost driver rates. So one part of the answer is done. Next they said, and also calculate the cost of batch of components using ABC. They want you to calculate cost of the batch. Cost of the batch. Now what do you mean by cost of the batch? Everything that is incurred for that particular batch. Right. Sir, we will start from material procurement, handling, setup, etc. No. Wait, 1 minute. Wait. Did they ask you only overhead cost for that batch, or did they ask you to calculate cost for that batch? See this. Ascertain the cost of the batch. Now, cost of the batch is not only overhead cost of the batch. Cost means total cost. Sir, total cost means we need material also, labor also, then overhead. Correct. What working note you did just now is for overhead computation. What about material and labor cost for this batch? That is given in the question. Where is it? See here. The firm has produced a batch of 2600 components of AXL5. Its material cost 1,30,000 given, labor cost 2,45,000 given. Here this 2600 number is of no use to me because the question is not talking about cost per unit. It's talking about cost per batch. So anyway, I'm going to do it for the whole batch. Okay. So that means material cost is given, labor cost is given. We will just copy. What about overhead cost? That you need to estimate on the basis of what? Activity based costing. That's what they said, using ABC. Correct. For that purpose only, we have done that working note 1. Clear? Yes. Sir, how to do overhead computation? Before we do overhead computation, let us first copy this material and labor. Yeah, everybody start writing computation of cost of batch AXL5. Particulars here, amount here, particulars and amount. First you need direct material cost in bracket given in the question. What was the number? 1,30,000. Okay. Next is labor cost given. Sir, they have given it as labor. How did you include it in direct labor? It may be indirect labor also. Anything indirect is an overhead, and all overhead is done in working note 1. That means anything other than what is done in overhead calculation should be direct labor only. No? Are you following? If it was indirect labor, indirect is part of overhead. They would have given that in overhead table. Outside overhead discussion, if they are giving me something as material, it should be direct material. If they are giving me something as labor, it should be direct labor. If it is indirect, it will be there in overhead, correct? Not separately. Yes. This is 245,000. Okay. Then comes overhead. Yes. Sir, should I do a subtotal and write it as prime cost? You can do that, no problem. Here the focus is not on cost sheet format. Here the focus is more on activity based costing. If one of you want to do prime cost subtotal, I am totally okay. No compulsion, no need to do it, because understand, this is not cost sheet problem. If it was cost sheet problem, I will ask you to do that. I would have asked you to do. Here the focus is ABC. Therefore, even they will look at ABC related working. It's okay if you don't write prime cost. Clear? Yes. Now overheads. How do we estimate the overheads? Sir, that is based on activity based costing, they are saying. Correct. How many activities we have? 6 activities we have. Right. Do we know the rate? Yes, we know the rate. Here it is. 527 per order. 367, correct, per movement. 798 per setup. Right. But how do we connect this to this batch? Go back to the question. In the question, they have clearly mentioned in this table, I am marking in red now, the usage activity of the said batch is given to you. See here. They are saying that there will be 26 orders. 26 orders. Okay. And do we know how much is the cost per order? Yes, that is there in our working note 1. Are you following? Then they said there will be 18 movements. Do we know how much is cost per movement? Yes, that is in our working note 1. Then 25 setups. Do we know cost per setup? Yes, that means it is just multiplication. Correct? Like this, all six cost driver volumes are given. You just have to multiply that with the rates that you have calculated in working note 1. Okay? Chalo, let us then start now. Overhead, which is the first overhead, material procurement. In the question table, they have given material order, but that material order is a cost driver. The department name is material procurement only. Correct. 26 orders. Do we know how much is the cost per order? Yes. Go up. In your working note 1 you have done 527 rupee per order. So multiply this by 527. 26 into 527. 13702. 13702. This is material procurement, which is the second item in the table. In the second table, material movement. Material movement is related to what? Material handling. Correct. And how many movements? Sir, 18 movements. Okay. Do we know how much is the cost per movement? Yes, sir. We have calculated in working note. Just scroll up. You have 367 per movement. Multiply here 367. So 18 into 367, 6606. Right? Yes. Sir, like this, should we do all 6 items? Perfect. Sir, if I do all 6 items, what will I get? You will get the overheads of all 6 departments. Material is already there, labor is already there. When you get all 6 overheads and when you do the total, that will be total overhead. Material, labor, overhead will be total cost, and that's the end of the answer. Simple. Right. Chalo, third one. Setup cost. Setup related cost. How many setups you need here? 25. So 25 setup into, what was the rate? 798. 798. So 798 into 25, that comes to 19950. 19950. Next one, maintenance hours, that is related to maintenance cost. How many maintenance hours? 4200 maintenance hours. And what was the rate that we had calculated in working note? 115. 115. 4200 into 115. Sorry, maintenance hours, I shouldn't take 4200. No, that is total. Yeah. Sorry, I should take only 690. Correct? Yes. So 690 into 115. 79350. 690 into 115. Yes. Right. Next, quality control or inspection cost. How many inspections we are doing for this batch? 28 inspections into, what was the cost? We had taken 196. Yes, so 28 into 196, 5488. 5488. Last one I have is machinery related overheads, and that is based on machine hours. How many machine hours for this batch? 1800 machine hours into 30 rupees. Was that 30? Yes, 30 rupees. 1800 into 30, 54,000. 54,000. Yes. Now what you can do, mark this as A and this as B, and here this as C. Okay, basically C will be the total overheads. Let me also do it. 13702 plus 6606, 19950, 79350, 5488, 54,000. 179096. Recheck once. 19950, Correct. This is correct. So now the total cost, that will be A plus B plus C, material plus labor plus overhead. I am getting 554096. 554096. Got it? Now basically what did we do? First we calculated cost driver rate, that is cost per activity. Correct? Cost per cost driver. Using that we prepared cost sheet to calculate the total cost. Right. Simple. Question number 2. The cost accountant of ABC Manufacturing attended a workshop on activity based costing and was impressed by result. All this is time pass. Correct. After consulting with the production personnel, he prepared the following information on cost drivers and the estimated volume for each driver. This is important to me. Units produced given, material cost per unit in rupees, labor cost per unit in rupees. Correct, sir. Material done, labor done. What else you need? Overhead. Correct. And that depends on 4 different departments. That's what they are saying. Look at this. Number of setups, machine hours, labor hours, number of inspections. And here you have the amount: setup cost, machining cost, assembly cost, inspection cost. In my first problem, all of this is given in one table, right? But here they have given separately. And previous problem we had single batch, but here we have 3 products A, B and C, and then the totals are given. Now total, this is for the whole company. Whatever is the total given, this is for the whole company, and this is also. The cost accountant also determined the overhead cost to be incurred in each of the 4 activities. This is not for A or B or C. This is A, B, C put together, all 3 products for the whole company. Here you have the breakup for A, B and C. Okay. Next, use the activity based costing method to find out the unit cost. What is unit cost? Unit cost is nothing but cost per unit. Cost per unit of each product. When they say each product, they want the answer to be presented for A and B and C separately. Right? Yes. Now you have the question in front of you. Before we go to working note 1 or the main answer, you need to visualize how do we present this answer. This is very important in practical papers. Accounts 1, advanced accounting, costing and FM. You see a question, don't start the answer. You see a question, understand what is given in the question. Then you need to visualize the answer. How will I present this answer? That needs to be decided. How will I present? What will be my first step? What second step? What working notes I am going to do? Then you start working out. Otherwise, most of the times, many students will agree with me. They will start with something as working note 1. Half of the working note they get to know they can't continue. And then they do working note 2 and then they realize, oh, this working note 2 should have come as working note 1. Working note 1 should have actually come as working note 2. This happens because you don't visualize the answer. You just start with the answer and that's where we go wrong. Now what we should do? Finally, they want the answer to be presented in a manner that I calculate cost per unit for A, B and C. Correct? That means my final answer will be something like this: particulars A, B, C. Don't write, visualize. Cost means not just overhead cost. You need material cost per unit, labor cost per unit, overhead cost per unit. And then if you do this, you will get total cost per unit. Material cost and labor cost is given in the question. Sir, where is it given? You see in the very first table, they have given, I am circling in blue now. You see this. Material cost and labor cost per unit is properly given. You just need to copy and paste. Copy from question, paste in the answer. Then you need overheads. Correct? Now here overheads are based on activity. Correct? How many activities you have? Sir, 4 activities. Correct? That means you need to do something as working note. What will be that working note? Sir, we need to find out cost per cost driver. Correct? First setup. 1,50,000 rupee. Okay, numerator you got. Denominator should be number of setups. Do you have number of setups? Yes sir, here we have number of setups. Are you going to take 125 as the denominator or 75 or 50? Keep in mind this 1,50,000 is for the company as a whole, and these numbers are for individual products A, B and C. That means you should not take these numbers, you should take the total number 250. That is I am doing in calculator 1,50,000 divided by 250, that comes to 600 rupee. Now what is 600 rupee? 600 rupee will be cost per setup. Cost per setup. Same way you will do it for machining. You have the machine hours and then assembly. Do you have the assembly related data? We don't have. Okay. What should have been the correct cost driver for assembly? Tell me what is the activity that you do in assembly department. You will have different parts that you assemble, correct? But do you have number of parts assembled? No, we don't have. Sir, we have number of units. No, can we take number of units? No, that may not be correct, because one unit may require 5 parts to be assembled, product A. Whereas another product B may require 20 products to be assembled, 20 parts to be assembled. So 1 unit of A cannot be considered as equal to 1 unit of B. Are you following? 5 different spare parts are assembled to make 1 unit of A. What if 25 parts are assembled to make 1 unit of B? Then you can't take 1 unit of A and 1 unit of B as the base. Here it is 5 parts, there it is 25 parts. Correct? So that is not possible. So don't go by number of units. So then what is the better basis that we have? Assembling work is normally done by labor, normally done by people. Correct? Parts, separate parts will come, and me as an employee, a labor, I will sit and normally do this assembly work. That means I have labor hours and I can take labor hours as my basis. Right? If it was given here as assembled parts, that would be better, but in the absence of number of parts assembled, I am going by direct labor hours. We do this even in overhead chapter. For every apportionment I need a logical base, and what if I do not have the exact required basis for apportionment? I go by which is the better out of what is available. If nothing is available, I go by direct wage ratio, or sometimes I distribute in equal ratio and give a note. Correct? Same logic here also. Correct cost driver for assembly related activity is number of parts assembled. But do we have that in the question? No. Therefore, the next best alternative is to go by direct labor hours. Okay. Last one is inspection activity. For that you need number of inspections or number of tests done. Do we have that? The answer is yes. That means when you present the working note, you know numerator will be this part and denominator will be this part. Correct? Now when you have the main answer, material cost given in the question, labor cost given in the question, overhead cost, you cannot calculate per unit. You can calculate overhead cost in total and then divide by number of units of A. You will get overhead cost per unit of A. Are you following? Material cost per unit of ABC given in the question, copy. Labor also given in the question, copy. But overhead under ABC can't be calculated on per unit basis. You will calculate for total of A, total of B, total of C. No problem. Total overhead related to A, if you know, if you divide that by number of units of A, you will get to know cost per unit. Correct, sir. Sir, for that they should give me number of units of A. No, correct. That is also given in the question. Read very first table. Very first table, not this, the first table. Yes, here. Very first information in the table itself is number of units produced. Correct. If you read the question properly, half of the solution is done there itself. I repeat, if you read the question carefully, half of the solution is done there itself. Most of the students don't read the question. They know that they have to do working note 1 for setup cost, for machine hour cost and so on, and then in the mid of the answer they are stuck. They don't know how to continue. Now tell me, what will be my first step in the answer? I'll do working note 1 to calculate cost per cost drivers. I will do all this setup, machining, assembly, inspection. So I'll get 4 answer, like how I got 6 answer in the previous problem. Yeah. Then I will prepare a table to calculate cost per unit. My table will have particulars A, B, C, material cost given in the question, labor cost given in the question, overhead I will get the total, correct, and then divide that by number of units. I will get overhead cost also per unit. Material per unit, labor per unit, overhead per unit will give me total cost per unit. Clear? This is what I mean by visualizing the answer. If this answer structure is ready, it will be very easy when you work out. Getting it? Chalo, let us start now. Question number 2. Working note 1. Computation of ABC rates. ABC rate, or what you can write, cost per cost driver. I have 4 items, 4 departments, 4 activities, anything. Yes, first one is setup. What's the number? 1,50,000 rupees to be divided by 250 setups. 1,50,000 divided by 250, that will be 600 per setup. 600 per setup. Second one, machining. Numerator will be 7,50,000 rupees to be divided by 6,000 machine hours. 6,000 machine hours. 7,50,000 by 6,000 will be 125 per machine hour. 125 per machine hour. Done. Third one, assembly. 3,60,000 rupees to be divided by 45,000 labor hours. 3,60,000 by 45,000 labor hours will be 8 rupee per labor hour. Last one is inspection cost. 90,000 rupee divided by how many inspections in total? 100 inspections. So 90,000 by 100, that will be 900 per inspection. 900 per inspection. So now these are the 4 important numbers: 600, 125, 8 and 900. Okay. Did you complete till this? Shall I continue? Now the main answer. All of you start writing. Computation of cost per unit in bracket based on ABC. Based on ABC. Particulars: product A, product B, product C. Based on ABC is activity based costing. That's not product ABC. Right? Yes. First, direct material per unit. Do I know how much is direct material cost per unit? Yes, it is already given. Let me just show you in the question book. Here it is. I'm marking now in blue. 40, 30, 55. Correct? So right here 40, 30 and 55. Second, direct labor per unit 15, 15 and 15. Even this is available here itself, 15, 15 and 15. Done. Then I need overhead cost per unit. Overhead cost per unit, but I know I cannot calculate overhead cost per unit here. So what I'll do, mark that as working note 2. Working note 2. So this will give me cost per unit. Cost per unit. Now what is my task? Don't mark question marks and all that. Don't write this. What is my task now? I need to calculate overhead cost per unit for A, B and C. Correct? That I will do separately. I will divide the total overhead by total units. I'll get cost per unit, overhead cost per unit. Once I bring those numbers here, I will just add that to 40 and 15 and this number will be cost per unit. 30, 15 plus that number, 55, 15 plus that number. I'll get the final answers. Clear? Okay, let us now do working note 2. Overhead cost computation. Particulars. Keep the same alignment A, B and C. Just continue the columns as it is. A, B and C. Which is the first cost? Setup cost. Tell me. I'll go back to question book. How many setups do we need for product A? In total, for product A, 125. Are you following? 125 for A, 75 for B, 50 for C. Okay, so you need 125 setups for A. Into what? Go back to your working note 1. There you have calculated cost per setup is 600 rupees. 600 rupees. That means you will have to do 125 into 600, 75 into 600, 50 into 600. So 125 into 600 is 75,000. 75 into 600 is 45,000. 50 into 600 is 30,000. I will wait for 1 minute. Please copy this. Those who have completed, which is the next cost? Machining cost. Machining cost. That is based on machine hours. How many machine hours you need? 2,500, 1,500 and 2,000. This should be multiplied by overhead per machine hour. How much is overhead per machine hour? Go back to your working note 1, 125. Just multiply this. 312,500. I hope the numbers are correct. 2,500 into 125. Yes, 1,500 into 125, 2,000 into 125. Right. Chalo, which is the next item? Assembly cost. That is based on labor hours, correct? So 25,000 labor hours here, 15,000 labor hours here, and 5,000 labor hours here. This should be multiplied by rate. And what was the rate that we calculated in first step, first working note? 8 per labor hour. Simple. Multiply this by 8 here also, here also. 25,000 into 8. 15,000 into 8. 5,000 into 8. Done. Last one is inspection cost. Inspection cost is based on number of inspections. So this will be 50. This is 25. This is 25. 50, 25, 25. And what is the cost per inspection? Sir, we did it in working note. Correct. What was that number? Sir, 900. Perfect. So multiply this by 900. 900, 900. Yes. So what's the number we are getting? 50 into 900. 45,000. This is 22,500. 22,500. Now you need to total this. This will give me total overheads for A, B and C. Let me do it. You also do it parallelly. 75,000 plus 312,500 plus 2 lakh plus 45,000. 632,500. Let me recheck that. Yes, correct. Next, product B. Should be 375,000. Last one. 342,500. In examination, one way to cross check whether your numbers are correct or not, you just do the total of these three, whatever I have highlighted. Do it in calculator. Add all of this. This should come to 1,350,000, right? Now I'll go back to the question. You observe here in the question, I'm circling in green now. This 1,350,000 is already given. They had given it department or activity wise. What we have done now is for product A, B and C, but the total should be same. The total 1,350,000 itself you are distributing between A, B and C using activity based costing, correct? So the total overhead should remain same. So one check that you can do in exam is the total of A plus B plus C should be equal to total of the overheads as given in the question, right? Chalo. Now this is total, but you need per unit, correct? How to do per unit? Divide this by number of units. Sir, where is number of units? Given in the first table of the question. 25,000. This should be divided by 25,000. This should be divided by 15,000. This should be divided by 5,000. If you do that, you will get overhead cost per unit. So 632,500 by 25,000 is 25.3. 375,000 by 15,000 is 25. 342,500 by 5,000, 68.5. Correct? Let me just recheck before I continue. Yes, good. Now numbers are correct. That good was for myself. That's okay. Now this is your overhead cost per unit. Why did we calculate all this? Sir, in the question they had asked us to calculate cost per unit. Material was given, labor was given. Overhead you asked us to calculate, so we all calculated. Perfect. That means this will go back to the main answer. 25.3, 25, 68.5. Go back to main answer. And here we have, correct? Material and labor was given. We need to copy only overhead. That number is 25.3, correct? 25, 68.5. Yes. Now if you add all the three, you get cost per unit. So for A, my answer is 80.3. For B, my answer is 70. And for C, my answer is 138.5. This is what they wanted. This is what they wanted. Done. So we basically calculated cost per cost drivers. Then we calculated overhead cost per unit of A, B and C, and then we took that in our main answer to calculate cost per unit. That's it. Done. Let me go back to the question and see what was asked, and then we'll get to know whether we have completed the answer. You see here, using the activity based costing, calculate the unit cost, means cost per unit for each product A, B and C, and that is what we have done in our answer. That means with this we have completed the solution. Got it? Right. Next, question number 3.